Hello there, Math 133 students. I received a request for help on this problem, which is 5.3, number 13. Of course, where it is in your individual assignment might be a different question, but it'll say 5.3.13 at the top. All right, so we have this question here about pollen, but I'm going to click the View an Example, which is going to have a similar question. In the example, they're talking about computer literacy, but it works the same way. So it says about 14% of the population of a large country is computer illiterate. If two people are randomly selected, what is the probability that both are computer illiterate? What is the probability at least one is computer illiterate? Assume the events are independent. Okay, so let me go grab a sheet here. So I've got it all typed up here. So you'll notice that the probability right there is 0.14, 14%. Let me highlight that because we're going to use that feature. So the probability of any one person being illiterate is 0.14. Okay, so that's for one person. So then what's the probability that both are illiterate? So it says here we're selecting two people randomly. So the probability that both people are computer illiterate would be the probability that the first person is illiterate times the probability that the second person is illiterate. In other words, because they're independent, as it says right here, right, because they're independent, then we can use rule number 4, multiplication. So we're able to just multiply the probability that the first one's illiterate times the probability the second one's illiterate. All right, so that would be 0.14 times 0.14, and I would just go grab Desmos to do that. 0.14, and of course when you're multiplying a number by itself, that's the same as squaring it. So it's 0.0196 for me. And that would be the answer right there. All right, now the more difficult question. Oh, and I guess I could make a little note right here. So note, we used rule number 4, right? Because it was a both, right? Both, so there's two people, right? Because it's two people and they're independent, right? Those things are tied together. So we use the rule number 4, which is the multiplication rule. Now, down here, because it says at least one, right? What's the probability that at least one is computer illiterate? Because of that, we're going to use rule number 5, right? Because it's more than one person and it's independent and it's at least one, right? So all of those things are true. Okay, well, again, the probability of illiteracy for one person is 0.14. That's still the same. The probability of not illiterate for one person is the complement of that, right? So that would be 1 minus 0.14, which is 0.86, right, if you don't believe me. There you go. See? Okay, so why did I do that? Why did I figure out this not illiterate thing? Well, rule number 5 says if you want the probability of at least one event E, right? So for us, it's going to be at least one illiterate person. We take 1 minus the probability of not E, so in our case, not illiterate, and we raise it to the power. Oops. All right, well, so that's raising it to a power, which is not probably a format that you're familiar with, so let me raise it in superscript form. There you go. Now that's more like what you're used to. All right, because you're going to raise it to the power, and in this case, because there's two people, you're going to raise it to the 2 power. Okay, so then how do we do that? Well, that would be 1 minus the probability of not illiterate we just found is 0.86, and we're going to raise that to the 2 power. And that's it. So the tricky part about these ones is you have to do 1 minus twice. You have to do 1 minus right here to find what the probability of not illiterate is for one person. And then you have to do it again down here, but it's in a different format. So this is 1 minus that 0.86 to the second power. And you honestly just go grab Desmos and type it like that. So 1 minus parentheses 0.86, whoops, I pressed that wrong, 0.86, there we go, to the 2 power. And there's our answer, 0.2604.